Thank you for tuning in for the very first video of Venus Earth Goddess readings. Um, I will be touching on the subject of Sedna today. Very short video. I really felt compelled to do a short video about Sedna, give a little background of her story and how I feel it plays out in astrology. So, short story. For those who might not know, Sedna was a goddess. She was the daughter of a king who happened to also be a widower. He was raising her completely and totally alone. Sedna was assertive. She was outgoing. She was outspoken. And unfortunately, definitely at that time, that wasn't necessarily attractive. So marrying her off was not necessarily easy for the king. She was quite assertive. She also wasn't willing to just settle either. So it wasn't as if Sedna was willing to just marry any old Joe. She definitely had a certain standard that she held herself to. So eventually, the king makes some kind of deal with some guy to marry his daughter, Sedna. And he has to court Sedna, and he appears to be a great, upstanding guy. He appears to really have his stuff together and meets Sedna's standard. So when she goes and marries the man and moves in, he completely changes up on her. He actually turns into an entire sea creature. He turns into this completely different sea monster that it's kind of similar to Poseidon. He legit, brings chaos. It's just not necessarily bearable to live with. Sedna felt extreme sorrow. She cried a lot, some kind of way. Her father is in communication with her and knows that he basically begins to feel guilt because he knows who he married her off to, at least to some extent, and it's obvious that he knew that this guy wasn't who he appeared to be. It was just a situation of, finally getting the deed done. So eventually, the father's riddled with guilt. He goes to attempt to save Sedna, and when he goes to do that, Sedna is able to hop into his boat that he has when he comes to save her, and the husband gets very upset, turns into the sea creature, raises hell, rocky waters, what have you, blocking the boat, trying to really, literally raising great sea monster chaos in order to make sure that Sedna stays there with him. So the father betrays her again before they even leave the fortress. He's going after her, and the father decides to throw off the boat. Sedna's holding on for dear fucking life, and Sedna's father is like, no, fuck this bitch. I'm not, going down with you. There's no point in both of us dead. Hacks off her fingers, kicks her off the boat. So, Sedna falls into the sea. Very sad story. It's basically a life that revolves around betrayal. Positive side is that Sedna falls to the sea and she becomes basically Mother Nature of the sea. She nurtures and becomes the sea lions, the dolphins, the beautiful plants down there and everything else. She basically becomes the Mother Nature of the sea. And, happily ever after, pretty much, in mythology world. So, that's just a small background of what Sedna's story entails. So, how does this play out astrologically? In my opinion, I think a dominant Sedna points towards someone who has serious father issues. I think if you have it on the seventh house, I think if you have it on the seventh house angle, the descended, the ascended, and maybe even definitely the IC. Father issues are very prominent in your life, and they might even be noticeable to those who don't even necessarily know you deeply. You kind of radiate abandonment issues, if that makes sense. It's a situation of pretty much having very serious daddy issue scars, whatever that may be, whether that be abandonment, whether that be strictness, whether that be never hearing you out, whether it be actual physical abuse, things of that matter. It's a serious father issue of some sort that has not been dealt with during the childhood, and basically incorporates into the livelihood of the native as time goes on. I think that Sedna also, depending on how dominant, conjunct maybe the chart ruler, first house. I would say maybe midheaven, or maybe a part of a stellium in close aspect. I would say Sedna would also indicate someone who literally has a revolving door of betrayals. I haven't figured this out yet, but I think that the betrayals that are connected to someone with a dominant Sedna is related to how they access their Saturn. And this is just a guess. Sedna, it just sounds like a really Saturnian story to me. Dealing with fathers and, just men in general, and hard lessons, if that makes sense. So I that's just a hunch. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll study that further. But Sedna, I think, in those places would denote someone who literally has a revolving door of betrayal. They get in relationships, and they seem to, those are the people that, the best friend run off with the man. The people whose sister is pregnant by the guy. Not my situation. But those are the people with really extreme betrayal stories. Like, what? Like, that don't even make sense. Yeah, like those extreme betrayal stories. Especially also as far as the transformation of the situation where, the person appears to be this way, but then comes out to be that way. It literally presents a situation of a bunch of transformative situations with those who betray you. It's kind of fucked up, but that's pretty much what it is. And I think how we deal with it affects also our accessibility to our Venus, if you have a prominent one. Sedna is this deep, if it's prominent and if it's dominant in the chart, and depending on where it's hitting, it is this deep sense of grief to an extent. It's great sense of it's a way too common feeling of betrayal. Um, it's severe trust issues. It's severe attachment issues. It's severe abandonment issues, depending on where it's sitting. But the beautiful part about Sedna, in my opinion, is that if you learn how to access it and you learn how to take it for what it is, and you learn how to integrate that energy within your personality and make sure that it's expressing itself healthily, you can become your own queen or goddess of your own space. I'm not saying no one else is welcome in that space, but it's as if you literally take your pain and you wear it like a fucking $1,500 Dolce & Gabbana outfit or some shit. Like, it's a beautiful thing once you get through all that betrayal, and once you get to the point of whatever your lesson is within that, you're going to appreciate when you get something genuine 100% much more. It's literally about taking the lemons that you're handed and making the best fucking lemonade anyone has ever had. And that's pretty much the story of Sedna. She was betrayed by every man she ever knew, and in the end she was left to sink into the sea and die. And instead of dying, she created her own world. She made her own creatures. She created her own environment, and it was beautiful. And I think that is the story and the point of Sedna in Synastry. I mean, not in Synastry, in the birth chart. As far as Synastry is concerned, that's a whole different story. Honestly, personally, I wouldn't mess with anyone that has anything too harsh on my Sedna, like Mars or Saturn or Uranus or Neptune. If it happens to be on my Sedna, or like even opposing it, I probably couldn't. And like, that's just because my Sedna is very prominent and it's on my ascendant, and it's just a sensitive area for me. So it really depends on what it's hitting. And remember, it also counts as far as what it's doing in that person's chart before you can really say it's going to give an effect of the relationship. But Sedna is it's a wonderful asteroid that is to be looked into if you suspect any father or abandonment issues, or just too many betrayals at one time kind of thing. Maybe even look in your progress chart, possibly even look at any transits, things to that matter. I feel like Sedna is a very good indicator as far as transits and progressions is concerned, if we're referring to like fidelity and things to that matter as well. So, yeah, that's just my small take on Sedna. Please check me out at www.venusearthgoddess.com. Also, make sure you click the subscribe button, follow, like. Any suggestions for another video, feel free to drop a comment, and peace out.